Here are the tiers. Wanna build? Very fun, fun, kinda fun, not fun.
Alright, our first card today is Ajani Nacatl Pariah. It's a 2-mana 1/2 legendary cat creature warrior. When Ajani enters the battlefield, create a 2/1 cat warrior creature token. And whenever one or more other cats you control die, you may exile Ajani, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. He flips into Ajani Nacatl Avenger. This is a Boros commander. It's legendary planeswalker Ajani. It's +2, you put a +1/+1 counter on each cat you control. Its 0 is you create a 2/1 cat warrior creature token. When you do, if you control a red permanent other than Ajani, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control at any target. And then his -4 is each opponent chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among non-land permanents they would control. Sacrifices the rest. So how fun do I think this is? I mean, it's a cat deck, not in green. It's a Boros cat deck. I mean, it's more of a Boros token deck, right? Because that second ability doesn't care about how many cats you have, just how many creatures you have. And it's +2 to go to 5 loyalty and then able to kind of essentially board wipe. Seems really solid. It's a 2-mana 1/2. You need one or more other cats. Okay, so how quickly in a Boros deck could you get this out? Turn 2, right? You can get this flipped on turn 2 because you can play like High Market or Plains, play Ajani, you get a token. Oh no, you need a free sack outlet. You know, 1-mana sack outlet in Boros or in red. There has to be a way to do this on like turn 2. Other than like Soul Ring, obviously, right? If you like a turn 1 Soul Ring and use like Altar of Dementia, then you could obviously just Ajani, back the token. But I think this would be a fun commander. It's Boros tokens. It's a planeswalker in the command zone that isn't really a planeswalker in the command zone, which is neat. It's inexpensive. Yeah, I'm gonna think about that fun. Maybe, yeah, I think fun. Next up is Arna Kennerüd, Sky Captain. This is a 5-mana, 2 white, blue, black, so 2 in Esper, for a legendary creature human knight. Flying, lifelink, ward, discard a card, 4/4. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double the number of each kind of counter on it, then for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token that's a copy of that permanent attached to that creature. What? Hold on. Sorry, let me just read that one more time. 5 mana, 4/4, flying, lifelink. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double each kind of counter on it, and for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token copy. So it turns everything into like a Bloodforged Battle Axe. So if you have, I mean, it's obviously cards like Shadow Spear and stuff don't work because they're legendary, but auras, Oxidon Warhammers, cranial platings. Wow, that actually seems really fun. I'm putting that in very fun. It might go to wanna build. I've been wanting to build a Voltron deck for a while, and it seems like a cool way of doing that, where you want counters on things, but you also just get additional copies of all your auras. Especially if you can put auras on there that like draw you cards when they enter. Seems solid. Actually, I'm with that up to wanna build. Next up is Ashling Flame Dancer. This is a 4-mana 4/4 legendary creature elemental shaman. You don't lose red unspent mana as steps and phases end, and it is Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, discard a card, then draw a card, so you rummage. If this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, Ashling deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If it's the third time, you add quad red, so 4 red mana. Okay, so it's Magecraft, you get a bunch of things. You get to rummage a whole bunch if you're like storming off. Second time, you deal a bunch of damage, and then the third time, you get 4 red mana to like continue storming. So you could like ritual. If you get like 3 rituals off, or like ritual, copy a ritual, you can get a ton of mana. I'm gonna put that in kinda fun. I just don't like storm decks personally. I think this is really cool in like a mono red deck. Like I would probably put this in my Neheb deck, but I don't know if I'd want to build a mono red storm deck around it. I think they're just better is the right word. I think there are more fun cards than this. This is cool though. I really do like it. Next up is Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. This is from the Precon. It's a 3-mana 2/2 legendary creature Eldrazi. Whenever it or another colorless creature you control dies, get an experience counter. You may pay Wooburg. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scions and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. Whoa. I don't know. I haven't looked at any of the precons other than the Gen 1, so I didn't realize this was one of the commanders. That's neat. That's colorless creatures and scions and spawns. Okay, that seems fun. I'll put that. I think that's not as fun as Ajani, but that seems fun. The experience counters commander that you have to pay like Wilbur to like pump your board, and it has to be colorless creatures when they die, which is like fine, obviously, especially if you're building an entire deck around Scions and Spawns, which maybe I'll do that. That seems like that'd be a cool idea. Next up is Carth, famed Mechanist. Mechanist is a 4-mana 3/3 legendary creature Dwarf Artificer. Wait, I have a Dwarf Artificer. I can play my D&D character in Magic the Gathering. Fabricate 1. So whenever this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Other non-token creatures you control is Fabricate 1. Then you can pay 2 tap, choose 1, populate or proliferate. To populate, you make a token copy. You make a copy of a token you control, or proliferate, you pick up any number of permanents or objects and you put counters on them. This is kind of fun. Well, I think it's here. It's interesting that all your non-tokens get Fabricate 1, so if you build this, you could just build a really low-to-the-ground Jeskai deck where you're just either putting counters on things or just making a whole bunch of 1/1s. Use a blink deck because that's when they enter, so if you can blink your creatures, you can get like a bunch of servos. So you don't want to put counters on them and then blink them. I feel like you could have an Oozle with the Resourceful Defense, but I think that's a little too much work. So yeah, I'll put it right here. Next up is Koram the Undertaker. 4-mana 0/5, legendary creature, human warrior. This is from the Jund Precon, which I may be releasing a video on how upset I am about that deck a little bit later, but we'll see. Koram gets +X/+0, where X is the greatest power among creatures in all graveyards. Whenever it attacks, each player mills a card. And then during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among the cards in graveyards that were put there from libraries this turn. So it gets a big bump when there are big creatures in the graveyard. You want to mill other players, and whenever cards are milled, you got to play those cards. This seems fun. I don't think it's fun as like a 5-color Eldrazi Spawns and Scion deck, but I think for a Jund commander, it's at least a little interesting. You get to like just kind of play other people's things. Obviously, Altar of Dimension would be like solid in this deck. You can play some high-powered creatures if you have the budget for it. Phyrexian Dreadnought, this is 1-mana 12/12. So you can make this immediately into a 12/12, a 12/5 commander. But yeah, I think it's fun. I don't know if I'm that interested in it, but next up is Disa the Restless. I was right. 5-mana 5/6 legendary human scout. Whenever a Lorgoyf permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, put it onto the battlefield. And then whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, make a Tarmogoyf token. So this is the face commander for the Jund Precon. So my biggest complaint with not this commander. I think this commander, I kind of want to build it. I think my biggest complaint with the Jund Precon though is you read this commander and you're like, oh man, they're going to print a whole bunch of Goyfs, and there are 9 in the deck, including a Changeling. And I feel like this Precon in particular feels a little bit more scattered than the other ones, but I'm not going to super get on my soapbox right now. In terms of this card, I think this is a cool Jund commander, and I do want to build it because I love graveyard decks, so I'm probably going to build this in paper. I don't think I'm going to get the Precon, I'm just going to like make my own deck. Next up is Eldamri Corvekdal. Nailed it. 3-mana 3/3 legendary creature, elf warrior. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Pay a green, tap this, tap 2 untapped creatures you control, reveal a card from your hand or the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, put it onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn. That seems kind of, I don't know where I'm putting this. I'll put this in kind of fun. Mostly because it is like a powerful effect, but you're just cheating creatures into play, which to me, especially in mono green, is like great, cool. But is that fun? It can be. I think in the 99 of an elf deck, I like it. And I think, no, I'm putting this in fun. Not you. I think this actually makes a more interesting elf commander than some of the other ones we've seen, because it's not just like an instant win condition, but it does let you just put a Crater Hoof into play. Yeah, that's gonna go there. Also, this doesn't have a once per turn clause, so if you could untap it, which are plenty of ways to do, you can just put like a bunch of creatures into play. Next up is Emrakul, the World Anew. 12-mana 12/12 legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls, applying protection from spells and permanents that were cast this turn. When Emrakul, the World Anew, leaves the battlefield, sack all creatures you control, and you can have it has Madness, pay 6 colorless, which is probably not super relevant in Commander. I mean, there are lands that you can play to get this into your hand, but this is a colorless Commander. I don't think this is I'm going to be one of the few not fun Commanders for me. I think the 99 it'll be great, but as a Commander, I think there are better colorless Commanders, even Eldrazi Commanders I'd rather play that are A, more powerful and B, more fun. Next up is Genko, Future Shaper. This is Tamio's husband. 4-mana 2/5 legendary creature Moonfolk Wizard. Whenever another non-token permanent you control leaves the battlefield, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, create a creature token with those characteristics. So you make a 2/2 white fox with vigilance, a 1/2 blue moonfolk with flying, and a 1/1 black rat with lifelink. A 3 white blue, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So those are all Tamiyo's kids, which is like, the story behind it is like pretty cool. Go check that out. But I think this is a fun commander. It's a blink commander that makes a bunch of unique tokens, and you can put counters on a bunch of stuff you control. It has to be another non-token permanent, so it doesn't actually even have to be a creature. It's just any like artifact, enchantment, or whatever. So that's nice, and you have a way just to kind of pump your board. Next up is Grist, Voracious Larva. This is a 1-mana 1/2 with legendary creature insect with Death Touch. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay green. If you do, exile Grist, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and it becomes Grist the Plague Swarm, the Golgari Planeswalker. 3 loyalty, +1, you create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill 2. Put a Death Touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Then -6, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect creature token. It's a 1/1 black and green insect. And it's not a token. It is literally, I mean, it's a token copy of it, but it's a 1/1 black and green insect. I haven't had my coffee yet. Listen, so this commander, I think this is, I mean, I just love Golgari. So, but I'm going to put this under, I think I'm going to put this in fun. I don't think this is very fun. If you build around it though, could you build like a Golgari Planeswalker deck with this? I mean, that ult is like pretty good, but you have to build a lot to get to it and proliferate a whole bunch. I think this is kind of fun as a commander. I want one for my 99 of a deck, but I don't know if it's a fun, I would rather have just original Grist as my commander, have this in that deck, because it's an insect, so we can mill over it. We get to like use Grist's ability again, and then it's unearth it, so you pay a black, unearth this, play a green, flip it. But in the 99, I think it'll be great, but I think it's only a kind of fun commander. No very fun yet. Very interesting. Next up is Herigast, Erupting Hellkite. This is a 9-mana, 6/6 legendary creature Eldrazi Dragon. So this is actually a mono red commander, because it is a merge for 6 red. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. When you cast a spell, you may exile your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. Flying. Each creature spell you cast has a merge. The emerge cost is equal to its mana cost. Interesting. So you have to exile your hand, and you can't. Oh no, you may exile your hand. That moved up for me. And it's 8 mana, but if you have like a 3 or a 3-mana creature out, and you have 5 mana, you can sack the 5-mana creature and then play the emerge cost and get this into play. And each creature spell you cast has a merge equal to the cost of its mana. Emerge cost equal to its mana cost. Now, I don't think the emerge cost, I don't think you can reduce colored pips. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section. I don't think so, though. But do I think this is a fun commander? Yeah, you know what? This might be the first very fun commander. I like having a merge on other creatures and figuring out ways to like kind of abuse that, especially if they're colorless creatures where you can just kind of chain them together and get some like weird storm turns in like mono red. But I think that would be cool. We're just like Eldrazi or dragons. I don't know. I like that. Next up is Imskir, Iron Eater. An 8-mana 5/5 legendary creature demon, but it has affinity for artifacts, not artifact creatures, actual factual artifacts. When it enters the battlefield, draw X cards and lose X life, where X is half the number of artifacts you control rounded down. 3 in a red, sack an artifact, it deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value to any target. This card seems insane. The fact that it's affinity for just actual factual artifacts. So what's the earliest you could get this realistically, and like not CDH, because in CDH in theory you could get this on turn 1 with enough like rocks, but in like casual commander, if you have like 2 artifact lands, an arcane signet, like a soul ring, pretty much there. So like turn 2, you can get a 5/5 commander that will draw you, I don't know, if you're using all the affinity, 3 cards and lose 3 life. Card's insane. Yeah, I'll put that under very fun. No, hold on. I think I'm gonna put it the top end of fun. It seems so powerful, and just like, I just love affinity decks. And while its third ability is good, stacking an artifact and deal damage, I like this just as a way to like draw cards. Like, and the command tax isn't really a huge issue. And it's Rakdos artifacts, which we don't see all that often. So you like play synthesizers and blood fountains in there. Yeah, I like that. Next up is Joiny Oag Ancient. Oh, that's right. 4 mana, 2/4 legendary creature elemental. When it enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1 green forest rat creature land token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. At the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is this creature's power. Okay. So you make a bunch of 1/1 land creatures, and it cares about land creatures, which is neat. I think this is kind of fun. I think you want to probably build your deck around casting your commander a whole bunch, obviously, for this. I mean, this could be your commander, but the command tax can get a little prohibitive, like, pretty quickly, especially being 4 mana, but you're in Simic, so it's not like a huge deal. Ashnod's Altar kind of helps pay for that, so you can play this Ashnod's Altar if you can click cast it again, and then you keep getting Dryad tokens. If you can double the amount of tokens you get with, like, doubling Season Parallel Lives, or Nixplamation to, like, up your mana, the tokens end up just kind of paying for the mana, the command tax, so you can probably just, like, sack this and, like, loop this from the command zone, like, indefinitely. Nixplamation, just do that. And like a Nixplamation, and a way to either untap your creature. Oh, Intruder Alarm. Intruder Alarm, like Nixplamation. And some haste. Yeah, you can break this in some ways, but I'm going to put that in kind of fun. Next up is Kozilek the Broken Reality. The 9 mana, 9/9 all colorless legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hand. Each card manifested this way, you draw a card. Up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hand. Okay, so they have to put 2 cards, their hands into play. Okay, and then for each card manifest, you draw a card, and then other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. Interesting. So it doesn't have to be you, and it's up to 2 players. You can pick 2 opponents that they just put 2 cards on the battlefield face down as 2/2s. And they're probably going to put actual creatures into play, or you can do it, right? You can manifest your hand and draw 2 more cards. But I think it's probably better to just pick 2 opponents. You give them, like, some creatures, but a 2/2 is going to be easier to beat up than, like, a 3/3, right? And you get to draw 4 cards off that. Definitely need a way to, like, build the creatures, which sucks, because you can't, like, all is dusted. But I think this is I think I'll put this in kind of fun. Yeah, I think I'll put this in kind of fun. I think I'm going to move this up. I like the fact that other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2, so it's a Lord. And this Eldrazi isn't prohibitively, like, busted, right? Like, if someone turbos this out, it's still a 9/9, but it's a 9/9 that can be chump blocked indefinitely by those 2/2s, and you just draw 4 cards. Which I shouldn't say you just draw 4 cards, but it's a 9 mana draw 4, and then it's a Lord. I think it's fine. Next up is Kudo, King Among Bears. 2 mana, 2/2 legendary creature bear. Other creatures have base power and toughness 2/2 and are bears in addition to their other types. This is the true bear commander. However, I mean, it also gets kind of busted with Elishnorn, where you just kind of lock people out of the game, which is funny. But I think it's a fun commander. Other creatures have base power toughness 2/2. Interesting. I'm going to put this in kind of fun, which might be blasphemous. I mean, if you want to build a bear deck around it, go for it. I think, like, that's cool. I like Descana as a bears deck better, but I think the effect just isn't that fun to me. Like, it's funny, but I don't know if it's fun. Next up is Nadu, Winged Wisdom. 3 mana, 3/4 legendary creature bird wizard with flying. Creatures you control have when this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability. Reveal the top card of your library if it's a land card. Put it onto the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. This ability only triggers twice each turn. This card is going to be busted in CD because if you have equipment that are 0 equip costs and you keep moving it around, you keep revealing cards from the top of your deck, and then you just get to draw that or put it into play. Actually, not even drawing it, which means Bowmasters and Notion Thieves, Narsets don't stop you from drawing, basically. And if you have Amulet of Vigor, Flunking, or Tiller Engine, any ways to have those lands enter untapped. Oh wait, they just actually enter untapped. You don't have to worry about that. If it's a land, you just put it onto the battlefield, which is insane. This card is going to be very fun for the first time, but also this is going to be like a CDH deck. The 3 mana 3/4, which on rate for flying is just like a good rate. And then just, yeah, this card seems absolutely insane. Next up is Omo, Queen of Vesuva. 3 mana 1/5 legendary creature shapeshifter noble. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Each land with everything counter on it is every land type in addition to other types. Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it is every creature type. This is an interesting commander. What's every land type? So it's like a desert and a gate and whatever else. And a non-land creature with the everything counter on is every creature type. So weird. That seems very fun. I think my friend is actually building this deck with like Maze's End, which just makes sense. That's funny. Yeah, I like this commander. That's cool. Everything counters are wild, and when it attacks. So it's a 1/5, which means you can... I like that they made it a 1/5, because you could attack with it and not be super concerned that you're going to lose it, because people need to like kill it. It's like, oh yeah, I'll put like a 1/1 in front of it. And you're not really, you don't need to suit it up like for Voltron, like, or like for commander damage. You're not worried about killing someone with commander damage. It's just easy to like block, and it's a 5 toughness, so it's not going to be just traded off that easily. Next up is Pearl Ear, Imperial Advisor. 3 mana, 3/4, legendary creature Fox Advisor with lifelink. Enchantment spells you cast have affinity for auras. That's a sentence. Whenever you cast an aura spell that targets a modified permanent you control, draw a card. That seems good. Enchantment spells you cast have affinity for auras. What a wild line of text. I mean, at least it's a mono white commander. I like it more than, oh, what's the one from Kamigawa? Light Pause? I like this one more, but it's still, here's an aura spell that targets a modified permanent. Okay, so you have to put an aura on a creature that already has an aura or a counter or like an equipment on it to draw, which seems fine, but you'll probably be putting it on this creature, right? It's a 3 mana 3/4 with lifelink, which is great from the command zone. I'll put that like here. I think that's fun, and I think enchantments having affinity for auras is really interesting. So then you can play some bigger enchantments that you normally wouldn't play in like aura decks like this. And you don't even need that many auras for this to be like just good. Next up is Phalia, Exuberant Shepherd. 2 mana 2/2 legendary creature dog with flash. When it enters the when it attacks, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent. At the beginning of your next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Phalia. So you attack, you exile a thing, basically blink a thing, it comes back, and then it has a counter. Then you put a counter on the pupper. I love this card. Mostly for the art. I actually don't know how fun of a commander this is going to be, but I do love just the, like, all the art variations of this card are just really good. But unfortunately, art isn't the only thing that matters, therefore I'm going to put it in kind of fun. And in the 99 of decks, I think it's really good, but I don't think this is like a super fun commander. Next up is Flage, Titan of Fire's Fury. 3 mana 6/6 legendary creature Elder Giant. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, it does a lightning helix, so 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. And you can escape it by paying red, red, white, white, and exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard. So this is Uro and Kroxa. This is the Boros version with the lightning helix. In Commander, I think this would be a fun commander. So I'm trying to think. You play this as a burn commander. I'd rather play this over Kroxa, yes, or Uro. Mostly because Uro seems like it might be a little too good, and this seems like it'd be fine. I'm putting kind of fun. I think I'm gonna put it like right there. No, I think it's more fun than Bears. In like 60 card formats, I'm excited for this card. And again, in the 99 of decks, I think it seems solid. Like if you're playing a Mardu Legends deck, a 3 mana 6/6 that lightning helixes, so it's a removal, and it's a legendary creature that you can bring back. Seems like really good there, but as a commander, not that interested. Next up is Ral Monsoon Mage. 2 mana 1/3 legendary creature human wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Ral deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile Ral. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control, and he becomes Ral Leyland Prodigy, a 2 loyalty planeswalker. When it enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. That seems cool. So if you storm off, you get a whole bunch of extra loyalty. His +1 is until your next turn. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. -2, Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral. And its -8 is exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana cost. So if you play this, you have to, if you wanted to ult this right away, you have to play 6 other instant and sorcery spells, which in Commander wouldn't be that hard to do. And you have to win the flip on the 6th one, where you have to keep casting more in order to transform it. Okay. And if you lose the flip, he deals 1 damage to you. So there is, in theory, you could just like knock yourself out of the game with this. And if you, I'm trying to think how good this, how like fun, and like, it reminds me of Krark a little bit, but just because I think it's just the coin flipping, right? I mean, Krark would also be funny in this deck. And Krark's thumb just got even better because you can flip 2 coins. I'm trying to think how fun this is. I think I'm putting this in the tail end of fun. I think it's mostly because it's an Izzet Spellslinger deck, and I usually don't find those super interesting, but I like the -8 on this, where it's definitely good. I mean, it's like Mizzix Mastery, right? Essentially the same thing, but it's 8 loyalty instead of overloading it. So you have that in your command zone as a Planeswalker. Next up is Roshin, the Roaring Prophet. 4 mana, 4/4, legendary creature, Giant Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, mill 6 cards. You may put a card with X in its mana value from among them into your hand. Okay. Tap, reveal any number of cards with X in their mana cost from your hand. Add 2 colorless for each revealed card this way. Spend this mana only cast spells that contain X. Spend this mana only on costs that contain X, rather. So it's any cost, so it doesn't have to just be like a spell. Is this like a metal worker for X spells, which is kind of funny? It's Gruul X spells. That seems very fun. That might be weird. It might go up to wanna build. I just like how unique this commander is. I know there's another variant of this card from a while ago. That's just like a big mana dork. But I like that you're incentivized to play X spells and like reveal them. That reminds me of like Metalworker, as we all know, is like a busted card. You get 2 colors for each. So if you have 4 X spells in hand, you get with X in their mana. Yeah, so if you have 4 X spells, you get 8 mana. Then you can use that for like Walking Ballistas or Bane Fires, Fireballs. Yeah, I like this. Next up is Satya, Aetherflux Genius. 4 mana, 3/5, legendary creature, Human Artificer with Menatre and Haste. When it attacks, create a tap and attacking token that's a copy of up to one other non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy at the beginning of your next end step. Attack the token unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So this comes in, you attack, make a tap that attacking token of another non-token creature you control, and if its mana value is greater than the energy, you have to sack it. Otherwise, you can just sacrifice it. And I think generally speaking, it's fine just sacrificing it. Like it has a Solemn Simulacrum, let's say. Play this, make a token that's a tapped attacking copy of Solemn. Ramp. If they block it, you draw a card. If you just sack it, you draw a card. Or cards that make tokens when they enter. I mean, you have white, so you have ways of doubling your tokens. Red, you have Impact Tremors. Sneak Attack is also just good here. You can sneak attack something. Back with both, make a token copy of it. If you have enough energy, you can keep the token copy, sack the sneak attack version. Yeah, I would say this seems, although it's the tail end of fun, it's, very fun. Next up is Shilganar, the Sire of Flame. Shilgengar, Shire of Famine. Messed that one up real good. 5 mana, 6/6, legendary creature, Elder Demon with flying. Sack another creature, create a blood token. If you sacrifice an angel this way, you create a number of blood tokens equal to its toughness instead. And you can pay 3 Orzhov hybrid. So it's white, black, or white, black. Stack 6 blood tokens. Return each creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Those creatures are vampires in addition to their other types. So I was actually talking to my friend about this commander, and I think this is going to be I'm going to put this in, I think, very fun. I think actually no, I do want to build this. There are ways to remove the finality counters. So if you build a blink deck around this, because finality counters say when they die, you exile it. So you can return your all your cards from your graveyard. Then you can Ghostway or Airy Interlude and flicker your entire board. And then they come back without finality counters on them. And if you have cards that when they die, you can return cards to your hands, you can kind of loop this and get a bunch of tokens and get a bunch of ETBs and a bunch of blood tokens. So yeah, I'm really interested in this card. And it's a 5 mana 6/6, and I just like the flavor of it. Next up is 6. This is a 3 mana 2/4 legendary creature Treefolk. That's it, it's just Treefolk with a reach. Whenever 6 attacks, you mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. You may cast permanent spells from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying their other costs. So I like lands decks, and this is definitely an interesting card. I like how short the name is. The text box looks so weird because we're so used to long names, and it's literally just 6. But that aside, it has reach, which is good. Mill 3, put a land card from the hand. That's whenever it attacks. Turn non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. So we have spells and their other cards. I don't know where I land with this. I'm gonna put this in kind of fun. Again, I think what we're seeing a lot here, which I think is a good thing, is there are a lot of commanders that are great in the 99, but you don't need to build around. 32 commanders in a set is a lot. My buddy and I, we were looking at Hour of Devastation had, I think, 9 commanders in it, 9 legendary creatures. And it's This has 32 between the pre-con and the main set. And then the main set alone had 24, not including reprints. But not all of them are great in Commander. They could have just been creatures that are legendary. So I definitely think that the amount of legends they're putting out can be overwhelming, but I think in a set you usually have just a handful that are like actually playable commanders that are you really want to be building around. That's a whole other video. Next up is Sokoa and Ember Mage. This is a 6-mana 4/4 legendary creature goblin wizard at common. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to any target. Discard another card named Sokoa Ember Mage, sacrifice 2 mountains. It deals 4 damage to any target. This is not a fun command. You need to make non-legendary token copies of this and then get this back into your hand. Discard. It's not going to work, unfortunately. It's cool. It's common though. It's one of the very few common legends that are like in paper. Next up is Sorin of House Markov. This is a 2-mana 1/4 legendary creature human noble with lifelink and extort. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you've gained 3 or more life this turn, exile Sorin, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. And his backside is Sorin Ravenous Neonate. That's a 3 loyalty Orzhov Planeswalker with extort. +2, make a food, -1. Sorin deals damage equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn to any target. -6, gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a lifelink counter on it if you control a white permanent other than Sorin. This seems like an absolutely fine commander. I like extort a lot in command. I think it's a really just like good mechanic. Or I don't know if good's right. It's powerful. And so it's easy to gain life, right? You can like play this on turn 2, play a 1-mana spell, 2-mana spell, extort, you gain 3 life, transform them. And the backside isn't that egregious. You can make a food, deal some damage, or you gain control of a vampire. And it still has extort, which is nice. So if you're looking for just like a commander to, hey, I just want to extort things a whole bunch, this is an easy way of doing it. It's a little bit harder to remove than a creature. People can just swing at it, I guess. But it's a +2, so it goes to 5 loyalty, which is a lot. And its -6 isn't so egregious that, you know, you're that concerned about someone hitting, you know, someone can take your commander, which is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to put you like here. I like extort as a mechanic, so maybe I'm a little biased. Next up is Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. The 1-mana 0/3 legendary creature Moonfolk Wizard with fly. Whenever they attack, investigate. Whenever you draw your 3rd card in a turn, exile Tamiyo, then return her to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control, and you get Tamiyo Seasoned Scholar. Legendary creature Planeswalker Tamiyo with 2 loyalty, +2 until your next turn. Whenever a creature attacks you or Planeswalker you control, it gets -1/-0 till end of turn. -3, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. It's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. -7, draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library, rounded up. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. So how good do I think this is? And like how fun? It's a 1-mana commander, and that if you brainstorm the next turn, you have a Planeswalker immediately, which is pretty neat. That's a +2. But so you have to activate this 3 times to be able to ult. So assuming you're not like proliferating a whole bunch, it takes quite a bit to like get that ult. But when you do, you probably just win the game because you have a bunch of cards in your hand, and then you have no maximum hand size. I think this is a kind of fun commander. Put that like at the top end of kind of fun. No, the dog is more fun. I can see this being a very powerful commander, especially with like proliferation, where if you're just trying to get to that ult, draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library. So you can't like just Thoracle win off of it. But if you're drawing half your deck, you probably have some way of like hopefully winning the game at that point. And its -3 is fine. You get to return a growth spiral. And you can even return like a regrowth, which might seem weird, but you can regrowth and it's only 1 mana to like get another thing back. You get a permanent back. So that's always an option. But yeah, I just think it's a kind of fun commander. Next up is the Necro Bloom. This is a 4-mana 2/7 legendary creature plant. And I was just complaining the other day, well, a few weeks ago, there were no legendary plants for Insidious Roots. Now we have one. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, make a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, make a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. Land cards in your graveyard have Dredge 2. What a card. So it's Abzan, Field of the Dead in the command zone, which is just kind of wild. Lands have Dredge 2, which is also just kind of wild. Everything's a Dakmor salvage. So you're not, if you mill lands, it doesn't matter. Your fetch lands you can constantly dredge back, make like 2/2s in the command zone. This seems very fun to me. Mostly because I like land stacks, and Gitrog's like one of my favorite commanders. And this gives Gitrog so goes so well in this deck. I might try to include this in my 5-color domain deck, actually, in my Jared Garthalion deck. The deck is full of like fetches, shocks, triumphs, so getting the 7 different land names is super easy. And then on top of that, being able to like dredge back my fetches to be able to like just make sure I keep hitting my lands is really cool. Next up is Ulek Fused Atrocity. This is the Eldrazi face commander, I believe. So it's 5 mana. It's white or colorless, blue or colorless, black or colorless, red or colorless, green or colorless. So it's either Uberg, 5 colorless, or any variation of the sort. Legendary creature Eldrazi, 2/5 with the void. This card has no color. It does for commander, but like in terms of mechanically, it doesn't have a color. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, copy all other spells you control, then copy all other activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets with a copy. So if you cast Emrakul the Promise End, you pay 2 colorless, you copy the taking someone's turn. You play the Commander Masters Eldrazi Precon commander that cascades a bunch, you can copy that. The card's insane. And it seems pretty fun. We're gonna put it like up here. I'm not getting this precon, but and maybe when we play it, it'll be like, cool, you Ulamogged me twice, sick. Or maybe it'll just be really good. So we'll see. And then last but not least, maybe, is Ulamog the Defiler. The 10 mana 7/7 legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. As ward, sack 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. So you can get a whole bunch of counters on this. And then it has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. This card seems whack in the 99. I don't know if I would play this as a commander. I put this on the tail end of kind of fun. So the reason behind my decision there is I think Annihilator... I think this is a powerful card, but if I see this in the command zone, I feel like I have to deal with you. Because board sack 2 permanents is just obnoxious. It's not like unbeatable, but it's just annoying. And then if it has a massive Annihilator and you have any way of giving this haste or protection, like if I'm shields down for even like a turn, getting a Greaves or a Swifties on this can be a huge issue. It doesn't have indestructible, so board wipe will just deal with it and farewell exists. But I'm not interested in either like building around this where it's like a 10 mana commander that you exile half of someone's library, and like I don't know, it's just not a card I'm like that interested in. And that wraps up my Modern Horizons 3 fun tier list. Some really solid commanders in here, some that I'm really excited to have in the 99, which are like most of them. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that having more legends that are fit into existing decks makes it easier to just kind of not ignore sets, but not feel the need to buy every single legend from every single set to build a deck around. This set, there's be a few cards I'm going to pick up for some of my decks, and I'll probably try to build one of these 3 want-to-build legends for like a video or just have in paper, but of the 32, I think, they seem solid enough to like put into decks, but I'm not that interested in necessarily building all 32 of them. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What commander are you looking forward to building? Or what cards are you looking forward to getting? Let me know which one of these decks you want to see from the wanna build section. If you want more tier lists like this, give this video a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications when all my videos go live. I'll be releasing my next fun tier list for green-white probably later this week. And then check out my PDH channel, that PDH guy. I'll have it in the video description, where I'll be doing this same exact style of video, but for all the uncommon cards in the set. Or uncommon creatures. Alrighty, nerds. I'll see you next time.